Yeah, that's good stuff. The Patrick, I was the editor in chief at the Rapid City Journal in South Dakota.
Oh, you
Loves
were?
it. South Dakota, most underrated state in the United States. Great people there, man. Great people. Are
Well,
you
let's
East River? Are you East River?
No, yes, I am. I'm in Sioux
Yeah.
Falls.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, where everybody
that's
lives.
the good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, on the roundtable today, we're having everybody share. I'm going to lead the discussion, and you're all going to share. So I'll hand the ball off to you when it's time to share. And I'm going to go to speaker view, and my producer's ready, so we'll start recording and let's begin. Well, welcome everybody to the Client Attraction Chain Reaction Roundtable. So we're talking about how we help ourselves and how we help others create a client attraction chain reaction. So you remember back in high school, back in science class, where we learned about a chain reaction. So it's a process where one thing leads to another. So it could be likened to a snowball as a snowball rolls down a hill and gathers momentum and also more material, or a forest fire as it starts to consume um, more fuel, and then the fire gets bigger and bigger, or a reaction on the atomic level. So, speaking of Chicago, it was a fateful day uh, under the bleachers at the University of Chicago where they first split the atom. I'm amazed at that story because I don't think they really knew what could have happened there. They could have lost most of Chicago if that one didn't go right. But they thought they'd be protected if they did it underneath the bleachers. You know, that would save people. So that's a chain reaction. So what do we do to create a client attraction chain reaction? So we're going to talk about those things today on the roundtable. Uh, One of the things is putting on small scale seminars. This has been the game changer that we've discovered. I went around the country doing 100 of these, and now we started in January before 2020 became so crazy. And started taking them to Zoom. So we call them Zoominars. A small scale seminar, 5 to 10 people. I did not invent this. It was invented by McKinsey and Company. It's how they educated the world about management consulting when no one knew it existed. Um, I did a 10-year, $3 million study on the best ways for professionals and consultants to attract high paying clients. And I interviewed people at McKinsey about this, and interviewed professors at the Harvard Business School who had studied this. And David Maister is somebody I always recommend. Dr. David Maister was at the Harvard Business School. He wrote Managing the Professional Service Firm and The Trusted Advisor. There's one about the fat smoker. That I think that was his last book. Great stuff for all of us who are in this world. And he really introduced me and extolled the virtues of the small scale seminar, 5 to 10 people per principal. So if you've got two principals at your firm, you can have 10 to 20 people in there. It was for interaction, and you want to allow interaction. So today, there's going to be a lot of interaction as we talk about this and turning off to people. Patrick, I'm going to put you first up um, because I wrote about you in Forbes, and I've hired you, and several people I know have hired you because if we're going to be on Zoom, uh, we got to make a difference. And don't judge Patrick by how I look on Zoom today. We're just starting. So this is the before picture. We're going to have an after. So Patrick, why don't you give us a few minutes on the importance of not being an amateur anymore since we live our life on Zoom?
Yeah. Thanks, Henry. I really appreciate this opportunity, and it's great to see everybody. I think we've all been thrown into this new environment, this new space. We're on Zoom, we're on Blue Jeans, we're on GoToMeeting, you name it. We're doing more business, more interaction, more engagement over video than we ever imagined. One of my favorite quotes is actually Mike Tyson. You may have heard this, where he said, Everybody's got a plan until until they get punched in the mouth. Well, 2020 kind of punched us in the mouth. We weren't planning to go to video, but here we are. And so, we got a free pass the first few months. Now, amateur hour is over. This is how we're doing business. And so as I was thinking about today and about this interaction, what I realized is our definition of professionalism now needs to include our quality of video. So your definition of what it means to be a professional reflects in the quality of your video, but it's not just your video, it's your virtual presence. And so how do we show up? When we show up, what's in view, what's out of view, all of those really matter today, because what we're going to see over the next 6 to 12 months are people truly investing in themselves, not just for themselves, but for their clients, for those they wish to engage and connect with. Because at the end of the day, the more we can engage and connect with our audience, with our clients, with our customers, the more impact and influence we will have in 2021.
Most popular comment for the year is "you're still on mute." So I was still on mute there. Thank you very much, Patrick. Well, and let's go. Sue Stiles, can I ask you to take the mic for a little while? Actually, your Forbes column is going to run this month before month's end. Sue's been very good with doing things with video and podcasting, and that's also important for client attraction. Sue, would you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, at first, when you were talking about having small scale seminars, I thought I might just mention, because this week, actually, something really interesting happened. I was at a live conference, how we used to do them, 3 years ago. It was a smaller conference. I shared my heart, put some people on my e-newsletter. And yesterday, somebody from that conference reached out, and they've been following me this whole time. That's a long, time to continue building relationships. And sometimes, of course, I feel like, oh my gosh, nobody's even listening. Nobody even cares. But then I talk myself back into it and just act as if they are listening and they are reading. And you know what? She was. And so we're having a chat tomorrow. Patrick, I appreciate what you said about getting up with technology, and here we are. So I've always loved being in front of the camera or on video. I used to have a small little local TV show, and I loved it. But I have to admit, I've relied on speaking in person at conferences and doing business coaching one-on-one, sitting across the table from somebody. Last year, I started learning about Zoom, and then I started learning about doing webinars online, and I made myself, oh my gosh, this year, it's just funny timing, because this morning I spoke at a conference in Southern California, and I used that to make myself learn Prezi, which is just a sort of a different kind of a PowerPoint that looks kind of cool. And I heard it was sort of up and coming, and it, could differentiate you. Now, normally I would have said, oh, I don't want to learn anything else new. But I made myself, and I had a cutoff date of this morning, and we did it on Prezi. And so hopefully it looked like I'm up with technology. I'm embracing the medium. The medium is the message. Do you know how to use it? Even though it can be frustrating to learn. I'm not a techie. I just want to tell the stories. I still had to learn. And so I did it this morning. And so there's my 2 cents.
Now, Sue, tell people all the different things real quick, just what you do to get your message out there, your metrics every month. What are you trying to do as far as putting Sue out there?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love social media. So personally, I'm on it a lot. And so I feed it a lot. And it's all organic and it's all authentic. Even if I get someone to help me create a meme or something. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I am on LinkedIn. Although for my clients, I serve as solopreneurs. They don't often hang out on LinkedIn, the job, but they're on Instagram. And I'm on video. I'm doing a lot more on YouTube now. So I just did a podcast also. Henry, I've had you as a guest on my podcast. And actually this week, if I can share a little experiment, maybe it'll help somebody else. But this week I had an idea to share the podcast more. So it's streaming on all the platforms. And so I am doing right now what I call a high five experiment. Hey, I'm calling 5 friends who were on the podcast and said, would you just share this? Try and share your episode of the podcast in 5 different ways. I don't care what, I'm not going to tell you. It can be platforms or people, whatever. And this week, everybody is sharing however they want, Twitterifying it, email blast. And I took the metrics, the analytics of everything at the beginning of the week, and I'm going to take them again next week, and then I'm going to share back. But I can tell you already, I snuck in and had a look at one of the videos, and this girl, so we had 365 views on her video, and it's already up at 464, like quite a big increase just from some sharing of the content. So I expect to have good results out of it, but that's how I've engaged people in a small, independent way, interdependent way, and hopefully we'll get some results in a global way.
Yeah. So Sue, what you're talking about is so important, and it's what I wanted to get through on this call. Is it's about relationships. And I spoke in Canada, I don't know how many years ago. You were there. I helped you edit the book. You promoted me. I did some promotion of you back and forth. And oh, Patrick, by the way, did you pick up her target rich environment as solopreneurs? You can just nod or put a thumbs up. Yeah. So, and we'll get to Lisa Apolinsky in a second on this, but because Lisa gets it. It's not about being attractive to strangers. It's about the relationships and doing things. And everybody on this call that I know is going to speak certainly is attuned to that. So Sue, I'll let you go, but I just wanted to give you a compliment. Your Zoom, let's call it video set design, is great. The red and the white and everything, it's not too busy, it's interesting. Of course, being Dutch, you've got Van Gogh up there, so you touched my Dutch heart. So thank you, and thanks for being on today. Okay, so other things we've got to do. I say in my study that publicity finishes 8th with an asterisk, because what finishes 3rd is getting your how-to content out there, either through articles, blogs, your LinkedIn profile. Justin, this is going to be your cue here to get to speak here in a second. So all these things that you get on there, and again, connections. Justin, I'm not sure how we connected. I think somebody said I needed to talk to you. Maybe it was Mark Evans, but it didn't matter. So I did a Forbes column, and then you were very gracious to say, would you like some more people for Forbes? And you connected several of your connections to me. You're helping me, but you're hooking them up and getting into something like Forbes. And then we all amplify each other's work. That's where I'm really headed with the Indie Books family and friends, is that we really get to become an amplification group for each other's work, our sessions, our articles, our books. And with each of us having at least 250 connections, you start to do the math on this, it really multiplies. So Justin, can I turn the talking stick over to you and share a little your view on all this?
Sure. So less is more for me. Less is more. I'm 100% simplifier. I hear blah, 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 and just see a pattern and simplify everything. So I started my company about 3.5 years ago with zero business background. I've got my kids running in the background in a dingy office. I have a global company that works with the top mindset people in the world. I don't do outbound sales. No, 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 no. People beg to work with my firm because of a lot of things that you just said. And less is more. So all my company does is just solves the problem. I was a journalist for 20 years, created my entire business model based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. And just saw a problem, created a solution, problem solved, successful global company. People I work with, they don't care if I don't shave or have a closet behind me. They just want results. People at the highest level want results. That's all they care about. Whether their average real estate deal is $50 million or whether they're producers for the top entertainers on the planet, whether they're solopreneurs, whether their company's as big as Allstate, they just want results. That's it. They don't care about any of this other stuff. They're just flying the plane. And so I only work with people who are flying the plane. And those people have these 3 attributes in their mindset. Only 3, because this is how my brain is. They're visionary, investment, abundance. Visionary, abundance, investment. And so those people are either, they're only one of two groups, 2 buckets. One, they're running high 6-figure to 10-figure businesses. They see their families whenever they want to and do what they like to do and what they're good at. Or they're going to be one of those people because they have those 3 attributes in their mindset. And so it eliminates everything else. So my brain is a CRM of connectivity. I can talk to someone in Australia or Calgary or Sioux Falls or whatever, and then I'll be like, oh, I know someone who would be a great connection. Then I'll connect them, and a week later they'll be like, how did you know how to do that? I don't know. I just know how to do it. So I do 10 of those every Monday through Friday, life-changing connections, and 3 or 4 every Monday through Friday. I get companies around the world that want to hire my firm. All with that attribute and those attributes, their mindset. No sales, no funnels. You just create value for the highest level people. Byproduct is they create value for you. All this other stuff is just landing the plane. But if you have the right mindset, it attracts the right network, which creates the right opportunities. If you have the right mindset, it attracts the right network and creates the right opportunities. And so that's all I do. I just have the right mindset, which attracts the right network and creates the right opportunities. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. That's it.
It's on mute. Justin, may I give you a compliment?
Sure.
Your approach and dealings with me are totally different than other journalists. I'm sorry, other PR people. And I started out as a journalist, and I try to be polite to everybody. I don't want to be that journalist. Though some I've wanted to lecture, but I avoid it. I just let them figure out, let the world figure it out. But if you could just speak to that philosophy about, you said you got annoyed, so what do you do
Yeah, sure.
different than them?
Yeah, so there's a simple formula to creating a successful global company because all I do is simplify and I see patterns. So here's the simple formula to creating a successful company on a global level. You see a problem, you create solution to problem, problem solved, successful global company. All this other stuff, whatever. But you just see a problem, create solution, problem solved, successful global company. So that's all I did in PR. I was a journalist for 20 years, created my entire business model based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. And so how PR firms annoy journalists hundreds of times a day is they send you useless press releases that are useless. They serve the client, not the journalist. And so my firm, and it's on my company's website, you can go and see what my firm does. There's no hidden tricks. I don't know what PR firms do other than annoy journalists. I don't know what they do, and nobody else does other than annoy journalists. So my firm creates newsworthy stories similar to what I did as a journalist. It becomes a link on the client's website under news or blog. So it looks like a story you see in the New York Times or Rapid City Journal or Calgary Sun or whatever it is. I take that link and pitch it to media all over the world. Media is interested, put them in touch with the client. Problem solved. So it works with any business size, any location, any vertical. And I only work with those people with those 3 attributes. So that's it.
So, and that's so great for all of us. We need to be in the problem solving business. And I always say that to authors, and the first thing is, what problem does your book solve? And oh, it solves so many. What's the most important one it solves? And who does it solve it for? One.
One.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurs get themselves into trouble because they try to be everything for everyone. They try to be everything for everyone. My company is one insanely high genius level thing for one insanely high genius level person. That's it. And those people, again, it's all collaboration, no competition. It's all investment, no cost, and it's all abundance, no scarcity. So it eliminates all this other nonsense. And it's just people flying the plane at the highest level. And they want to introduce you to other people like that. And so 99% of people have no idea what I'm talking about, but I don't care because the 1% who do are the ones creating the companies that hire all the people. So actually helping the planet by working with that type of person.
Justin, thanks for being on today. And I missed it. Where are you originally from?
Chicago.
Always Chicago. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Because I had to laugh. I worked in Toronto for 7 years, and when you called Chicago the Toronto of America, that was pretty good. Okay, thank you so much. And let me look. I wanted to see right now. We've got Scott Hamilton on the line. If I could bring Scott on here. So I can't call Scott a student or a disciple, but of all the people I've worked with over the years, he's the top 3 who's wanted to apply what I've been teaching and feedback the results to me. When I had the New Client Marketing Institute and doing the research, so he was always so good at that, and really took a lot of things where we started and take them to the new level. I want, Scott, thanks for being on. I was hoping you could share a little bit about the Executive Next Practices Institute that you started. Thank you for having me as a speaker there so much. I wanted to make other people aware of this organization. And so welcome to the Roundtable.
How about unmuting?
Yeah.
How about unmuting?
How about unmuting?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, Henry. Great to see you as always. Great to see your some of your clients and collaborators on the call here today. Well, you know, I want to go back to it. I'm just coming off of one of our strategy sessions, one of our Zoominars with 500 people on it, you know, with the Executive Next Practice Institute. It's called E&P Institute. If you just Google it, Google the words Executive Next Practices, you'll see our institute. It's been around for about a decade. Several thousand C-suite leaders are members and part of the network. The session we just came off of 10 minutes ago was a mock strategy event about how you create that value proposition Justin was talking about, but we really drilled into it because there's a lot to it in terms of if you are going to create a global company, you better have a value proposition that works. And so that discussion was a mock session where the leadership team, I had 8 top leaders playing roles in describing how to create strategy virtually that you can take forward that's going to work in 2021, 22 and beyond. The Institute itself grew out of Henry's talks about small scale seminars. And this goes back again 15 years ago. Where we started with these groups of 5 to 8 people in a room looking at a topic. We would present this content and have a dialogue. And it was really a fascinating exercise in that some of our largest clients came out of those very small scale seminars. And yet what we also saw was a market need for something larger. So we created the Institute where we have these larger scale forums. And pre-COVID, we would have 100 to 1,000 people in a room examining topics that were really relevant to the C-suite. Lisa, I see you on the call here today. Lisa's come in and talked to our group in New York in the past. Did a great job, by the way. Thank you. Still talking about it. And it's really interesting that, and some of you have already talked about it. You can use a lot of strategies, but it comes down to that relationship, getting face to face with someone and building it in an authentic way. So we're, again, putting these people in a room. It's not a sales event. We're not there to pitch our wares. but it's engage in a legitimate dialogue about what their needs are, where the pain points are, and then fill that pain. So that is allowed us to grow exponentially, and we fill this niche. And here's the niche. Most traditional associations try to appeal to one type of person, whether it be a CFO or CEO or HR. We kind of threw that model aside and focused more on what the pain point was. And several of you have already talked about this. We talk about what business leaders and others are encountering and focus on that. And then let them decide who's going to take the reins. Is it going to be the HR person leading the charge? Is it going to be the CFO leading the charge? Who is it going to be? And so if you walk into these meetings, and the virtual session this morning with over 500 people, we saw CEOs, chairman of the board, CFOs, you name it. But we know in presenting what they're interested in, then they'll step up from there. And so those kind of things are a great collaboration. So anybody that is part of your network, of course, is welcome to join us. Again, I mentioned Lisa has spoken to our groups before. March 20th, Henry, March 20th this past year, we went completely virtual. We've had 35 events in the past 8 months. And so that is the way of the world right now. We don't anticipate going back to any kind of in-person kind of collaboration until minimum September, October of next year. And even then, I think it's going to be hybrid. So we're learning how to leverage these relationships and build the relationships virtually. And I think most of everybody you've got on this, certainly on this Zoom call now, is experts at doing that. But I think the main thing is, again, if you start with that, what does the listener want to know? What are they after? Not what you're trying to put across, but what are they interested in? So I'll stop there.
Well, one question. So you've organized the ENP. That is not your only thing. It's, in a way, it's almost your side hustle. Just for 30 seconds, address your real business and your strategic planning. I know I wrote about that in Forbes. If you could share that.
Yeah, so let's just talk about that quickly. ENP, the Executive Next Practice Institute, is a side hustle that turned into a monster. So it turned into this global monster with thousands of people. That was not our original intent. However, our true company, our day job, if you will, is called Next Work Strategy. Next Work Strategy. And it's doing just what it sounds like. We help people create a stronger value proposition to go to market with, to pull their teams together and find a new solution for the marketplace. And again, we just demonstrated that today at our webinar. So the Next Work Strategy, again, we've done a couple of things with Henry. Recently, Henry wrote an article in Forbes about how you create a virtual retreat using some of our techniques. And then also Henry has been kind enough to mention us for a session we're doing tomorrow with him on referrals, how to build your advocate and affiliate networks. And that's tomorrow afternoon, by the way, for everybody on this call. So network strategy, again, is the core concept is presenting a unique, fresh way of pulling teams together to find a better value proposition. It's that simple, but it's also that complex because every single client is different. We don't offer a cookie cutter approach. It's got to be a customized session that we develop for people. So we've been doing this for a number of years. We typically work with companies from 30 million in revenue up to around 10 billion in revenue. That's our market. We don't really deal with startups. It's got to be the larger companies that have the budget, have the passion, have the wherewithal, have the budget to get it done. So although I will say this, and I invite all of you when we get past COVID to come see us. We're based in an incubator at the University of California, Irvine. It's called Beal Applied Innovation. It's this enormous building that has conference rooms and presentation rooms and 48 startups under roof. That's right outside my door here. But once we're past COVID, that incubation center will be all together. And we're here because a lot of the best ideas do come out of the startup community. They just don't get applied very well. So we're bringing the enterprise community with the startup community to help launch these new value propositions. So it's a fascinating kind of environment that we have going on here.
Thank you so much, Scott. Um, it's just, you've done such a great job with this. And we look at all the different things that you can do, and I'm going to go over the Magnificent Seven and have some other people talk here. But it's just, I've been so pleased and proud of what you've done. Now, the only knock on you is you've been so successful, we haven't finished that book yet.
Right.
So,
That's right.
yeah.
It's in piles. To your point, it's in different blogs. It's all lined up here on the desk, about 20 of them. All we got to do is assemble it.
Yeah, gonna take off. Then
Right.
something happened in March. There's a new rule. Okay, so the Magnificent Seven from my study, the 7 best things you can do. Small scale seminars that Scott mentioned. I remember when Scott and I were in a restaurant with, there were 2 prospects and the 2 of us talking to them. It's grown a lot from there, but small scale seminars. Next thing is when you can give how-to information, be generous in giving how-to information on solving problems in front of groups. So that's what a speaking opportunity at ENP is about and other places. What's a target-rich environment for you? Scott, I crack up because sometimes I don't do it out loud, but people will say, well, Henry, see, I talk to the C-level, and the C-level doesn't gather. There's no place where they gather. You can't talk to them in a group. And I go, It's like, okay, Vistage, ENP Forum, Renaissance, Gazelles. There are places where the C-level gathers. You just can't come in like people used to at those venture capital groups where, hi, how are you? You know, they're networking like crazy and thinking that's doing some sort of good. So I always like it about ENP that you can't, it's not a networking group. If you want to get, what are you, Irish? If you want to get your ire up, you know, talk about networking at ENP. That's not, it's about contributing, and then things lead from that. The more you can contribute, the better it works for you. Okay, the third thing is get published, and all the way from at least monthly on LinkedIn, having something original to say, all the way up to a best-selling book. And then along the way, I'm at Forbes. If any of you are on the call and are interested in having me consider writing about you in Forbes, just send an email to Henry at indiebooksintl.com. I'm going to ask my producer if she could put that into the chat. And just subject line Forbes, and we'll consider that. Okay. Now, next
Can
thing.
I add to that, Henry, real quick? Can I just
Yes,
say,
please, Justin.
Henry is this guy is he's a pros pro. The guy just gets stuff done. He's great to work with. He just cares about people. He's a super high level thinker and really cares about people. And the Forbes article is a big deal. It's not this pay for play nonsense. This is a real deal, and I can't recommend reaching out to him enough because he's really good about responding and really good with working with you to craft an idea that works. And so I just can't thank you enough, man, because you get it at a very high level. Okay, that's it.
Namaste. Getting involved. Number 4 is get involved with target-rich environments as pro bono or a volunteer. For the last few years, I have worked on the national conference for the Institute of Management Consultants, a 50-year-old group. You give to get. And Lisa Apolinsky, I'd like to bring you up on this because I think you got it before I even mentioned it. I mentioned it to you once, and you got all over this year and really contributed. So would you be willing to share a little?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Apolinsky. I am the CEO and founder of Three Dog Right, which is a full-service digital consulting agency. And we work with clients who want to accelerate revenue and take market share using digital means. I have done a lot of volunteer work this year simply because I had a lot of time, and it's been so amazingly rewarding. As Henry said, he and I have actually served on the national committee for IMC. I am an IMC member, and I also have my certification as a management consultant through that association. I not only volunteered for the conference because I believe knowledge is power, and giving back and sharing your knowledge is the best way to show your credibility, show what you have to offer, and get those high paying, high net worth clients. And Justin, you know, call out to you. That's fantastic. That's absolutely the way to do it. And you have to get uncomfortable. I think that's a huge key. The other associations that I've been volunteering with that Henry may or may not know. So I'm on the Leadership Council for the National Small Business Association. So we actually develop policy that helps small businesses to be successful, whatever that looks like. And out of that, I've actually joined the ONO, the Office of the National Ombudsman for the SBA. Somehow I went to that. And so, you know, in my region, I'm actually able to work with small businesses who are having a hard time understanding what is available to them for free from the SBA, how they can ask for intervention or to have disputes settled, and to bring up issues that are on the horizon for small businesses, like labor and workforce. That is a huge one. How are we going to look at our workforce, and what category does your team kind of fit into? I have a very different business model than most people. I actually do not have employees. I have team members who I've made relationships with over a 25-year span, and they're from all over the world, and they are literally the best of what they do. And I bring them in and we solve problems for our clients, which again has tremendous amount of value. And if my client wants to work with these individuals directly, I am all for that because I stand for their success. But just getting involved and volunteering, and it can be as small as your local business affiliate or association within your town or your county or your state. There are so many opportunities to be able to give back. And I think that's what just about everyone on this call does, is we give back first and give freely, and then we get things to us. So it's kind of opening that space and giving out and sharing our knowledge, our talent, our time, and our treasure, and then getting back things that we want. And like Justin just put in, and I totally agree. Yeah, get back the right people with the right mindset, because the people that we attract are the type of people that also understand the power of relationship and the power of community.
Lisa, thank you so much. If I can compliment you, you've really upped your video game this year too, and your set design and all that. First, we were all in
Carter.
There you
Judy
go.
Carter did that. I just copied her. R&D, Robin Duplicate.
Robin Duplicate, Judy Carter.
Yeah.
Judy Carter is one of the authors at Indie Books. She she doesn't like to brag, but she wrote the Bible, the comedy Bible with over 1 million sales. And she chose us to publish the new comedy Bible, and very generous to our authors and helping there. She was on TV like 100 different times. And I really recommend her book, The Message of You. It's one of the 2 best books I've read on this profession of speaking, which the side hustle. I run a company called Indie Books International. As a professional speaker, I go around the country training business leaders on how to persuade with a story. So
persuade with a digital content story?
Why, that's the 3rd in my series. And I've written for ghostwritten for somebody named Ken Blanchard, who wrote a book called The 1 Minute Manager, and now he's written 60 books. And he's been a mentor to me. And one of the things he said to me is, Henry, I haven't written a book. And I said, what do you mean, Ken? You have 60. He goes, I've co-authored 60 books. I know what I know. I want to get what other people know. Also, it created a platform of 2 people marketing the book. And the real money for all of us is not in the book. The book is a self-liquidating marketing investment. It's the only one I know that will actually pay for itself. Oh, well, the second might be what I'll get to in a second, the paid workshop. But the book, it's to get to 0 or be in a little in black. One of my most successful authors says, I look at your royalty checks, Henry, as Costco money. I go to Costco twice a year when I get your check. I said, but as a result of that book, I'm paid $10,000 to speak. So that's what this is all about. When we've done the studies on what people put into this client attraction chain reaction, they get a 4 to 20x ROI. So if you're putting in 10,000 into this campaign, you're going to get 40 to 200,000 back in new client revenues that you would not have gotten if you didn't do the book. So it's just that simple. You also have to do some metrics. Lisa's very good on her metrics. We call it 2 showcases a month. For all of you speaking today, this is a showcase. When we were on panels at IMC or panels at ENP, that's a showcase. We're showcasing our expertise on how we tell people how to solve their problems in general. They hire us for the specifics, for their specific problem and their specific solution. We gain the trust by solving problems in general. In our book, Persuade with a Digital Content Story, or You're Weathering the Digital Storm. If you buy one of the books, Lisa's happy to autograph it for you. If you buy both copies, she'll come to your house and read it to you.
And I'll even cook. I'm Polish, so I'm really good at that.
From Chicago?
I am from Chicago.
So that Maxwell Street, that Glumpke and Kielbasa and all that, okay. But now you're smart and you live in Arizona.
We used to go to Maxwell Street all the time when I was a kid. My dad took us, and I did an interview with Christopher Kai. He's a huge keynote speaker, and he actually did an interview with me, and we talked about our backgrounds as entrepreneurs. My parents owned a drugstore, and that's where I learned the power of relationships, going to Maxwell Street and talking to the guy about buying a hubcap. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but you get these relationships and they pay off.
So my dad was a dairy farmer, and then he became a dairy cattle hoof trimmer. So he would treat the cows' hooves of all the dairy farmers. We went to the Basque Festival. We went to the Portuguese Festival. We went to the Mexican Festival. They were always at the church, and there was a thing at the back, and you had food and all this. My dad took me to the bank when I was 8, so I could meet the bank manager and the loan officer. And now I realize, he was training me to run a business.
Yep.
I had to go to all the relationship gatherings. The food was always good. Anyway, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for being on. So number 5 on the list is networking. And a lot of people think that networking is dead or has been dead since March. It's not true. When we were on that committee, Lisa and I, every one of those committee meetings was networking. And I know Lisa did some side deals from it, and I did some things from it. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So on ENP, I've always tried to be involved there as much as I could and supportive. When Scott says, I need some help amplifying this event, like Sue said on hers, I put it on LinkedIn. I put it on Facebook. I send it to my client list. I do it around. Relationships. Okay, networking. Now, 6th is get your internet game plan together. That's 2 things. One is LinkedIn. We use LinkedIn, and not on this presentation today, but Devin usually talks once a month on a Zoominar, and we've done special ones on how you can use LinkedIn to fill your Zoominars, your small scale seminars. YouTube, we're doing a lot more on YouTube. I'm starting my YouTube podcast in January. A lot of you will be invited to speak as a showcase and put it out there. We're just getting a much bigger presence on YouTube. Now, number 7, and Scott Cantrell, I'm going to call on you on this a little, and you can introduce yourself and talk about it. But number 7 is putting on paid workshops. So doing something for client attraction by addressing a problem, and you've done some proprietary research to show the people who you're looking to attract on how others like them have solved their problem. So I tell a story in some of my workshops about an engineering firm that had IBM, Hewlett Packard, Kodak as clients, and I showed them how to do a paid workshop because they wanted Xerox as a client. I said, okay, we're going to do a paid workshop. They said, where? I said, the Holiday Inn in Rochester, New York. I've told that story for years. Last year, I actually went and saw the Holiday Inn next to Xerox headquarters in Rochester, New York. So I actually have seen it now. But it's how they got the Xerox account. So Scott, tell us who you work with and some of your philosophy on this, that people have to share their expertise. Could you talk to the group?
Of course, absolutely. Thank you, Henry. And so great to meet everybody. I'm going to be doing some massive LinkedIn connection invites, so hopefully you guys will be kind enough to accept. Looking forward to following up with each of you. I'm scribbling notes. So Henry, thank you for the invitation. My firm is Smart Solutions Media. We work with B2B consultants to help them attract better prospects and acquire more high-value clients. And paid workshops in particular is one of my pet sort of projects that I've been a huge proponent of for a long time. Free workshops are great too, of course. And as you all probably well know, some of the top paid workshop or seminar leaders in the world who've ever lived, people like Tony Robbins, still today often fill their workshops with free events on the front end. But nevertheless, I've always told my clients, and I suspect that many of you would agree, that being in front of a group and speaking is one of the fastest, easiest, least expensive ways to acquire new clients. And it's simply because of what Henry said and what so many of you have said. It really is about building that level of trust and authority in the most efficient and effective way. And I always, one of the big things I talk to my clients is how do we establish a competitive advantage by establishing our authority in the marketplace, this concept of the authority advantage. And so many wonderful, talented thought leaders and experts, and Justin used the word genius, right? So many geniuses out there in the marketplace, they're hiding under a bushel. We don't know about them, or their prospective clients don't know about them. They don't know about that genius. And so many of my clients have a high level of expertise, but they're just not able to successfully communicate that expertise to the marketplace. And of course, you got to be able to do both things to be effective. And so, this forum that Henry's putting on, leveraging a book, which I'm working on now, meeting you all and having opportunities to talk with you all of those things are tremendously valuable in not only learning experiences, but helping me establish my authority with new people. And speaking, I think, is the fastest, easiest way for us to establish that authority, which is all about demonstrating our knowledge and our skill. And paid workshops in particular, the previous company that I grew and built and then sold my stake in at the end of 19, unknowingly, I had no idea what 2020 held in store. It's been a good year overall, business-wise. But that company previously was a consulting firm, and we worked in a particular niche, and we grew our business basically around paid workshops. And it was a combination of filling those workshops through social media and through other speaking opportunities. But at the core of it was all about establishing that level of authority so people would gladly hand over their hard-earned dollars to come and learn the greatest next thing, this next work strategy, right, Scott? So at any rate, I can't stress enough developing and designing a paid workshop. And of course, in today's world, what's beautiful, what's sort of a silver lining around this cloud of the pandemic is this virtual situation we find ourselves in. Of course, there's no substitute for in-person opportunities to meet one another and to build those humanity-driven relationships, right? But in the world that we find ourselves in, creating a free workshop or driving people to a paid workshop virtually is easier than ever before. The technology's made it easier. Communicating like this, sadly, I probably wouldn't be meeting you all in this forum, at least not today, if it wasn't for the pandemic in March. And so in that way, I have tremendous gratitude. So at any rate, I would just encourage all of you, what you probably already know is how valuable speaking is, and making paid workshops a part of your marketing mix. Ultimately, if you have an existing list, you have some level of authority and notoriety, paid workshops is a very natural iteration and evolution with what you're already doing. And so many clients who already have that, they're very nervous about charging someone to come to their own event. But the way I look at it, if someone's already paying you as a client to get your expertise in thought leadership, there's probably 10 or 20 or 200 other people that need to hear it as well. And so at that point, it just becomes a marketing equation in terms of making sure that values align, like Justin said earlier, with who you are and what you do. And that's how you can attract people in the most compelling ways to shell out that 100 or that 1,000 or that $10,000 investment to attend a paid workshop.
Thank you, Scott. There was a regional law firm in Atlanta that I worked with for a number of years, and we turned that regional firm into a national firm by doing paid workshops. We would do 200 people at a Marriott, and they would people would pay to hear what these employment lawyers had to say. They gave them documents and templates. I mean, just it was like for $100 you had access to these people. At first I thought the problem was there was too many people to too few attorneys, so people didn't get to ask questions at the end. However, what happened was when they had a problem, who were they going to call? They, Chris, I heard you speak. Could you? Oh, of course. First consultation, no charge. What's going on? And this grew to a national firm. So they had a definite target-rich environment. Employers. They helped keep them out of labor problems. So there were a lot of clear things. Some of our seminars were titled things like, dude, it's only an earring. It was managing millennials. There was an article I wrote about when Henry leaves the office on Friday and Henrietta shows up on Monday. What do you do? Things like that. We've got time for one more. Susan Trivers, would you be willing to speak for a bit? We did a Forbes article, and this is all the overlay, but there could be a big mistake people are making when we're attracting clients, but we're doing something wrong. And I just thought you could talk about that for a minute.
I would be happy to, Henry. Thank you. I'm Susan Trivers, and my company, Trivers Consulting Group. We're in McLean, Virginia, in the Washington, D.C. area. And as Henry so artfully dubbed me, America's leading pricing expert, but for the last 12 years, I have worked with about 300 companies. My market is very particular, and it works for me. They are companies that sell their knowledge and expertise. And we typically think about CPAs and lawyers, but there's so many others, designers, educational consultants and trainers and architects and remodeling. There's a component of design in the remodeling process. And so that's their knowledge and expertise. So whoever you think of that has knowledge and expertise to sell, and their company is between $2 and $15 million, that's my clientele. One of the things about the pandemic, this is a side note, is it freed me from feeling obligated to go to networking events. And now I have spent some of that time at least getting to know people around the country, which has been awesome. But the one mistake that Henry was talking about is related to how your company charges. and I use the phrase pricing model. And there are two that are very much opposite of each other. One is charging by the hour, and the other is charging value-based fees or using value-based pricing. And there are often hybrids in the middle, but the two are so different. And my clientele has struggled with when they charge by the hour, which almost everybody does. They have uncertain revenue. You never know if the client's going to spend or you're going to spend 1 hour, 5 hours, 10 hours, or if the client's going to say, well, I need you for a week. And then at the last minute, they say, no, we really only need a half a week, and you can't resell those hours. So uncertain revenue is a big problem. The other thing that by definition is that you are always in arrears. Your revenue is always in arrears for the jobs that you're working on. So when you have a value-based pricing approach, you say it's going to cost X and you pay in advance, maybe an installment or two, but mostly in advance. And so you're never in arrears. And the third problem with hourly billing is that it subjects you to competition. And somebody says, I just talked to that lawyer down the street and he's charging, $10 an hour less. And for people who are sensitive to the price, that's a big problem. So value-based pricing is the way to resolve all of those problems. And with Henry's encouragement, I wrote a book a couple years ago, which I liked, but I'm more excited now, or very excited about my new book, which I'm calling so far Cracking the Pricing Code, Implementing Value-Based Pricing and Generating Fortunes. And it's really to address those three problems. In the article that Henry wrote about my work with value-based pricing, there were 10 steps. And any company, well, here's one thing too, and I'll say this to all of you who are wondering about value-based pricing, you don't flip a switch. You pick one thing, one piece, one step, and you try that step, or you work on that step, and then you gradually incorporate all the steps. But almost every client that I've had, if they were willing to do value-based pricing, they had completely switched within 12 months, and many much sooner than that. Turns out that clients really like knowing what it's going to cost. And when you can tell them, you're going to get all this amazing value and it's going to cost X, and it's not necessarily a low dollar amount, but it's a guaranteed amount. They are like, oh, that's great. Wow, I get all of that for that much money. And I'll tell you that even lawyers who tend to think it's impossible because there's so much uncertainty, when you're smart about it and you trust your track record, you can create value-based pricing that will make you at least as much money as you were making before, and then you can make more money on top of that. So that's what I'm all about. And thank you for having me speak.
Thank you so much. JD, I don't want to put pressure on you, but would you mind taking the talking stick? We'd like to hear what you do, and if there was something valuable that you took from this roundtable, would love the feedback on that.
You see, the key is that if you're going to speak, take yourself off mute. Studies have shown that no one's going to hear you on mute. And as an improviser, I'm happy to add a little extemporaneous thought to the discussion. Great conversation. I go back to Patrick, who opened up with an area that I espouse, and that is up-leveling virtually, and really channeling your inner showman at this stage of the game. A month or two into the pandemic, we started hearing the term Zoom fatigue. I mean, you knew you were going to buckle in for a couple of years at least with this thing. And the fact that people got fatigued so soon was a bit of a red flag. And, they're just now starting to trickle in with the vaccines. It's going to be a while. And we better get some mental toughness going, because there's going to be much more Zoom. I mean, settle in for the long haul. So I think those people who really bring a sense of showmanship and performance art to what they're doing on Zooms right now are going to be in good stead, and they're going to be in better position to reap the opportunities that they're trying to seed in these online conversations. And let's face it, LinkedIn in combination with Zoom right now is our lifeline. This is business development. There's no other way. You can write real well, you can bring people inbound to your blog or YouTube channel or all the other platforms, but the real opportunity you get to sell yourself and brand in the moment is through what we're doing here. And the more you do it, the more you counteract the fatigue that is bound to set in. You know, I get a little fatigued. I hit the pillow pretty hard at night, but I'm hardwired for this. I love this. I'm putting in long days on Zoom, and I'm meeting more people in the last 9.5 months than I did traveling 3 years coast to coast speaking. So the opportunities that we're generating, and when you arrive at a place of collaboration and service with people and not trying to sell them anything, I think that's how you're going to be remembered. That's how you're going to build the brand, so that when it comes time for an ask, or when people are asking you for what we would call networking favors, and you're starting to build equity into a relationship by making the right introductions and showing up at people's events and giving them props on their posts, I think that's important. That's engagement. That's how it's done today. So when it comes time to ask for a 5-star review of your book on Amazon, or a like or a comment on your video, you're putting good things out into the universe. You'll get good things back. And I'm listening to everybody here. I think we're all in that value creation mode. We're all trying to do right by the people that we're networked with and connected with. And I'm in the same boat. I listen, I weigh in when the time is right. In the words of Will Rogers, I never miss a great opportunity to shut up. So I just kick back and enjoy the ride. We're in it for a while. After 2 rounds of vaccinations in our shoulders, we wonder what's going to happen regarding live events and if we'll ever get the chance to go out and speak to a full banquet hall again. But I envision that we will. I'm more in the death of the speaking industry every day, but it's more like a medically induced coma at this point. I think there's hope. I think we're coming back.
Well, you were just in the weeds there, JD. It was great to have you share. I think you put a nice bow on it. So thank you to everybody. Yeah, link in with each other. You also have now heard each other speak, which means you could recommend the other people on this call as a speaker. Can't recommend somebody as a speaker unless you've heard them speak. And I would recommend everybody on this call. Thank you so much. So thank you for being with us today. And we'll post this on YouTube because publicity is the gift that keeps giving. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.